Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Sid Mnemonic here. I haven't made any videos for a while because I've been getting things sorted out at home and sorted things at work as well. But I'm currently on holiday at the moment, so I'll probably be uploading more videos over the next coming days. I've actually sort of come back from Estonia, where I went over the weekend. I was visiting a friend who shall be known as Charlie for the remainder of this video because he looks a bit like Charlie Brooker. A bit. And see, where do I begin? So Friday morning at 3 o'clock, got a taxi to Heathrow. My flight wasn't till 7:30, but I did get kind of paranoid because I've got I do get paranoid about these things. So I had a connecting flight with Helsinki, and I was just worried in case there was like problems with the flight, or these things happen. So everything was okay. We were flying over Denmark just as the sun was rising, and I had a window seat, so I got a bit of the sun as we were sort of flying over the North Sea. We got to Helsinki in the early afternoon, and so we're waiting for the plane, and I didn't realise this, because it's such a short flight to Talinn, where I was staying. The flight between Helsinki and Talinn is a propeller plane, and I've only had one previous experience of a propeller plane, and that was over 20 years ago, and I wasn't looking forward to it. Luckily it was quite a smooth flight. So got into Talinn about 2:30, and the airport is out in a place called Ulamista, which is just outside Talinn. There's a great big lake there, and I got myself one of these Talinn cards for €52, which kind of give you like free transport. It's kind of like an Oyster card, but with a few extras, like you can get discounts in shops and discounts in certain restaurants, and there's certain attractions that you can go free. I didn't really need it at the end of the day, but it was kind of good to have something like that in your pocket if you're going to explore. So I got out. I didn't really want to take a taxi after forking out €52 for this card, so decided to get a bus into town. Now, my hotel is at a place called Baltiam, which is the main train station in Talinn. Now, I made a really big assumption that there would be buses going between Baltiam and the airport. I was wrong. Thankfully, there was an airport worker who was waiting for a bus, so she helped me out. I had been learning Estonian, but when I tried speaking it, they just gave me really sympathetic looks. So I must try harder on that if I'm going back next year. So anyway, we got a bus to the Coca-Cola Plaza, which is kind of a sort of very central place in town, where there's a lot of trams and there's a lot of buses, and there is what's it called now? Viru Keskeg, which is the big shopping centre in Talinn. And from there I got a bus to Copley, and the bus pulled up outside my hotel. I was staying at the Hotel Economy, which is, despite being called economy, it's actually really, really nice. You may think the rooms are a bit basic, but it's got a shower and bathroom and a bed, TV if you want it, but I didn't really watch any TV. So sort of checked in around 3 o'clock. Was going to meet my friend later, you know, so I unpacked, had a shower, went downstairs to the cafe around the back of the hotel. I got myself a tea because I'm English. Ridiculously so, because I tried to thank the waitress in Estonian and she just laughed at me. Well, she didn't really laugh at me, she just kind of looked pitying at me and tried to hide her blushes. So I kind of just sat there and drank my tea until my friend turned up. He was late, but he did turn up, and so we headed over to the old town, which it's very sort of covered in cobblestones, which is a bit hard on the feet, but I was wearing my Doc Martens, which was good. So we went down through the old town to the Freedom Square. I'm not even going to try and pronounce it in Estonian. So there was a series of racing events, like a marathon, half marathon, 10k run, and my friend was going to run the 10k run the next morning. So we kind of walked down there, had a look round, and sort of had a look at there was some musical events going on there. So, and then we walked down out of the old town and went for dinner. Then we came back through the old town to get to my hotel. Had a look at the Depeche Mode bar. Now this is an interesting thing. There's one in Talinn and there's one in Riga as well. There's these bars that are dedicated to the band Depeche Mode, which is okay because I really like Depeche Mode. So we just had a look in. We didn't buy anything because, you know, my friend had to have an early night, and so went back to the hotel, went to bed the morning, got up early the next morning, got ready, went for breakfast, and then left to go back to Freedom Square to see my friend cross the finish line. Unfortunately, I got a bit lost because I kept asking people where Peace Square was, and no, everyone kept directing me to the town hall, and that was very confusing. But I found it eventually, and I managed to get to the square just as the runners were coming in, and my friend finished just over an hour, which he was a bit disappointed about because he wanted to beat an hour, but I was immensely proud of him. He's a good bloke and he deserves every adulation he can get, basically. So yeah, he's probably gonna try it next year and see if he can break that time, but you know, it's not something I could do, I don't think. So we were going to meet up later for lunch. He was going to take a shower, sort himself out a bit, and I decided to have a bit of an explore. So I decided to go to St. Olaf's Church. Now, St. Olaf's Church is the tallest building in Tallinn, and boy is it, and you can climb up the tower, and I wouldn't recommend it if you're built like me. I mean, seriously, there's like, you know, just spiral after spiral of rather narrow, uneven stone steps. And the only thing that's not, you know, stopping you from going AOT is a rather frayed rope. But getting to the top of it, you have a fantastic view. You see overall the town, and it's just an amazing view. And you know, so I managed to climb down in one piece, although it was quite daunting. I had to stop a couple of times. And being the glutton for punishment that I am, I decided to walk from St. Olaf's all the way to the Alexander Nevsky Cathedral, which is by the Parliament building, which is on the other side of the old town. It's a bit of a hike, especially if you've just climbed down a massive tower. So it's one of the most beautiful landmarks, I think, in Tallinn. It's what you think of when you think of Russian Orthodox Church, you know, with the sort of onion domed towers on it and like icons everywhere. But you go inside, and I couldn't take photographs because even though personally I don't really buy into religion, you know, I'm an atheist. I don't actually sort of do that. I do have an appreciation for architecture and sort of religious art. So came out of Alexander Nevsky, walked around the Parliament building, saw the tall Herman Tower behind the Parliament building, which is where they raise the Estonian flag and sing the national anthem every day. My friend told me the first time he heard it, he got freaked out because he thought something major had happened in politics. But so I was feeling a bit tired, and I had to meet my friend at like 2:30. So made my way back through the old town via the Church of St. Mary's, which is another sort of domed tower. So we met up at just after 2, got some sandwiches from Baltium, and we then took a bus into town and then took a tram to Kadriorg. Kadriorg is the palace built by Peter the Great for Catherine the Great, even though she never actually visited Tallinn. So there's this magnificent palace that was never actually put to its original use. But it wasn't actually the palace or the grounds, because there's a museum in the palace, but that's not where we're visiting. There's actually sort of art museum just up the hill from Kadriorg. So that's where we went, and it was kind of cool. There was an exhibit on hyper realistic paintings. That they look like photographs almost, but they are like just paintings. So we had a walk around that, and then we had a look at sort of Estonian art from all through the sort of 20th and 21st century, and then we had a look at older art, sort of 18th to 19th century art, and then we sort of sat down and had a cup of tea in the cafe. We were this is really funny. You go to somewhere like Estonia, and you think you're going to have sampling the local cuisine, but it wasn't like that at all. I think the first night my friend took me to this sort of hipster burger joint. He had a burger and I had a tuna salad, and on the second night we went to a Mexican restaurant. So after the Mexican restaurant, his friend had a birthday party, so we went over to his friend's house, friend's apartment rather, and came to the party, and we had an inaugural bottle of beer, and his friend had an Xbox Connect, and it had these games on it, and I'm useless at video games pretty much, and they had this fighting game on it, and I was given the controllers. Basically my friend kind of bullied me into having a go at this, Not really knowing that I actually had martial arts training from when I was a teenager, and new defensive stances, and basically I was undefeated in 4 matches on this fighting game, and he was suitably impressed. I was a bit tired, and I'll admit though it was on the easiest setting, but still, for somebody who doesn't play computer games, I was quite quietly impressed. So we spent about hour and a half at the party, and then we made our quiet apologies and left. I remember on the way we were heading over to the Depeche Mode bar, and I remember on the way there we saw these 2 sort of classic Soviet era vehicles. One was a car, one was a motorcycle and sidecar. And we just because my friend's a bit of a petrol head, you see. He's very into Formula One. So that was interesting. We just sort of stood and took photographs of this car and this motorcycle. So we ended up going to the Depeche Mode bar, which is pretty reasonable. It's got a small main bar area, and round the back it's got a sort of bigger sort of cavern area, and they constantly play a loop of Depeche Mode concerts, and you can buy merchandise. It's pretty reasonably priced as well. It's like €4 for a beer or something like that. We stayed for a couple of rounds and sort of watched the the concerts on the screen and chatted for a while. So yeah. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention, on the first day we went to this place called Kelm, which was kind of a bar, sort of a hipster type bar in a sort of attic, basically, which had really nice decor, and we chatted and we sort of caught up with everything. So yeah, back to the Depeche Mode bar. We stayed there for a couple of hours, and then I went back to my hotel room because I was beginning to really feel it, the walking I'd done in the daytime, because I've got bad knees anyway. So yeah, we went back there, and so we were up the next morning. So the half marathon was on. The proper marathon and the half marathon was on, so we sort of had we were going to walk down to the seafront and watch that, but instead we ended up going to Freedom Square and watching the first people over the line. There was also the half marathon, so we watched the start of that as well. And so yeah, so we took a bus to the seafront and sort of watched the half marathon going past. And I was kind of struggling a bit to catch up with my friend as we walked along the promenade. My feet were really in a lot of pain, and I'm whining and complaining. My friend did a 10-kilometer run the day before, and he was still outpacing me. I felt slightly ashamed at that, so anyway, so I kind of swallowed my pride, and I said to him, look, can we take a bus to... He was taking me to a restaurant down on the seafront called St. Patrick's, which has absolutely nothing to do with Ireland, but they did some very nice fish. It's down by a yachting marina. And we kind of just sat there having lunch and watching yachts on the Baltic and some brave souls actually swimming in it. So we walked back to the main road and got a bus to the TV tower. And the TV tower is quite a historic landmark. It kind of looks a bit like the Seattle Space Needle, more than our telecom tower, and it's also a sort of landmark in a historical sense, because when Estonia was battling for its independence in the early 90s, late 80s and early 90s, sort of during the collapse of the Soviet Union, Russian forces were trying to take the control of the TV stations. And let me see if I can remember this. There was people risked their lives by forming a human chain around the TV tower in front of like Soviet tanks and men with guns and things like that. And you know, it's an incredibly brave thing to do. We don't really I don't think in this country we've sort of seen that sort of level of revolution. I mean, we've had like riots and conflict and marches and things like that, but to see people actually lay their lives on the line to protect their lives of their families and things like that, it's incredibly brave. And just outside of the TV tower, there's actually a marker to commemorate the event, because it's been like 25 years now since Estonia independence. So we were having a good time. We had planned to go to the botanical gardens, which were just up the road from the television tower. But I said to my friend, look, it's getting a bit dark. It looks a bit rainy. So what if we go back to town instead? And so we got back on a bus that took into town. And unfortunately, we were sort of halfway there, and some guy got on the bus with a group of friends, started giving my friend a bit of an eyeballing, you know, in a sort of unpleasant way. And you know, this guy was trying to pick a fight, basically. I think it's because he'd heard us speaking English, and he was a bit sort of like xenophobic, sort of like a sort of Estonian UKIP NF lout, you know what I'm talking about. He basically was trying to get into an argument with my friend, and my friend wasn't having any of it. And we just got off the bus at the next stop and waited for another one. It was a bit of a sort of dent in an otherwise lovely day. So afterwards we went up the top of the Swiss hotel in central Tallinn, sort of as a sort of completing the triumvirate of really tall towers. So we had a pot of tea at the top of the Swiss hotel, and most expensive hotel in Tallinn, but you could still get a pot of tea for under €10. Under €5 actually, come to think of it. So we went back to Copley, and he, as a sort of final meal for the night, because I wasn't going to see him the next morning because he was working, he took me to this sort of Indian restaurant in sort of back streets of Copley. I think it might have been some other district, but it was just beyond Copley. And it was a sort of very well, I hate to say this, but a kind of hipstery place, because you could tell that by the haircuts, the waiters. But the curry was really nice. I have to say, it's really, because I'm really fond of spicy food. I had a jalfrezi, and it was a bit mild for a jalfrezi, I have to say that. But, you know, they're probably accommodating local tastes as well. Then we had a stop off at a bar across the way, had a drink there. So that was a sort of real sort of craft ale place. And then we headed back to the Depeche Mode bar for one final sort of farewell drink. And then he walked me back to my hotel, and we said goodnight and went our separate ways. So the next day, I didn't have to fly out till late afternoon. So, you know, decided to do some shopping. Anyone who shops in like Lidl will know that there's a type of Estonian chocolate called Kalef, and I went to their shop near the Coca-Cola Plaza, and bought a selection of chocolates there, and then I headed back to the old town, right near Olof's Church. Between Olof's Church and Stout Margaret Tower, there's a lovely little tea shop that I'd noticed the day before, and you know what I'm like about tea. So I bought 9 50ml bags of tea, and it cost me exactly €18, which is really good for that sort of thing. So hopefully over the next coming weeks or so, I'm going to be doing reviews of those tea. Tell you, the smell was just amazing. It was the most glorious smell ever. So walked through the town, I picked up a few souvenirs, bought some amber, probably ridiculously overpriced amber as well, but you know, got a few little trinkets and things. A friend of mine wanted some shot glasses as well, so I got her a couple. One that says Estonia, the other one is a Talinn one. So I'd already checked out of my hotel, so I got back to the hotel about 12:30. I had planned to have lunch at this tower called, and I better pronounce this right because it's going to be embarrassing, Kich in de Koch, which is Estonian for peek in the kitchen. But unfortunately, it being Monday, it was closed. That's a thing with lots of sort of tourist attractions and museums and places like that in Tallinn. Don't know how it is in the rest of Estonia, probably the same, but in Tallinn, they are usually closed on Monday. So yeah, walked back through the old town, picking up a few little souvenirs and things. I did get myself a little brooch. If I can, bear with me 1 minute. Where did I put it? Oh, it's in here somewhere. It was a little. Oh, where is it? Oh. Here it is. It's amber and silver. It's a little bumblebee. Can you see that? It's beautiful. Yeah, I'm not going to tell you how much this cost me, because you'll probably say, well, you got ripped off. They saw you coming. But yes, amber is quite expensive there. I went into a souvenir shop where I bought the shot glasses, and there was an amber carved chess set that was like something like €1,100. bit outside of my budget. So anyway, got back to my hotel via the off license that was next door, and bought some Estonian spirit. Got some strawberry liquor, some cherry liqueur, and Vanna Talinn, which is a rum-based liqueur with spices in it. A lot of things that are rum-based in Estonia, included in chocolate, which is going to be exciting when I do a sort of taste test in a forthcoming video. I also got some, what's it called now? Viru Valga, which is an Estonian vodka. So yeah, so I just hung around the hotel, waiting for my taxi, which was about to come at 3 o'clock. Got to the airport. Okay, I was sharing with an Italian man who needed a taxi to the airport as well. He was a nice guy. He paid for half the fare as well, so I didn't lose out there. It's only really when I got to the airport that problems started to arise. First of all, I was trying to do a self-check-in, and for some reason my passport wouldn't get read. It wouldn't scan on the reader. I nearly had my alcohol confiscated at security because I'd read the custom allowances wrong. You're allowed a litre of alcohol, but if it's in hand luggage, it's got to be in like 100ml bottles, and it has to fit in with your your liquids allowance. Bloody phone. Yeah, I didn't know that, but thankfully I managed to shove it into my cabin bag, and then they let me back through security so I could check it in, and they checked it in all the way to London, so I was okay there. So I was in a bit of a state after that. Nearly lost the receipt for my my luggage, which wouldn't really have mattered, but if I hadn't have got it, I would have lost my luggage, I think. So got to Helsinki. Oh yeah, while I was waiting for my plane, I settled my nerves with a beer, so I was all right by the time we boarded for Helsinki. And I was walking through Helsinki and airport, and I came across I hope they do it over here. I really hope they do it. You know how you get massive Toblerones in duty free? They're doing a coconut one, and my mum loves coconut chocolate, so I had to buy her one, which was great. So I spent my last €5 getting a sandwich from this little kiosk in Helsinki airport, and then got on the plane. It was a bit annoying because I had an not an aisle seat, a middle seat, which it was all right. I mean, I prefer sitting on a window seat, but it was fine. It was fine. Got home a bit late. We touched down a bit late because there was some kind of hold up at Heathrow, and we were stuck in a stack for like hours. Well, not hours, like a long time. So we touched down about 8:30, sort of 20 to 9 local time, and then I had to go through passport control, which is just I hadn't flown for a very long time, you see, from a major airport. I mean, last year I flew to Dublin from London City Airport, and when I got to Dublin, it was really easy because there was like a person there, and at Helsinki, both ways, passport control, They just looked at your passport, you sort of gave them the smile, and you know, they waved you through. Oh yeah. That reminds me, the first time I came through Helsinki passport control, I forgot I was wearing a hat. So that was a little embarrassing. So yeah, passport control in Heathrow is all sort of automatic. You have to line up, you have to put your feet in a certain area while you're waiting for it. And then I was trying to put my passport through, and unfortunately the edge of my passport had caught on the machine and had curled up, so it wasn't scanning properly. And I'm like, oh, please let me in, please let me in. But finally the problem got sorted, and you know, got back into the country legally, and went off to find my my luggage, which those buggers at baggage handling had put upside down. That really annoyed me, you know. So after that, had to get the underground, and it's over an hour between Heathrow and Arnos Grove, which is the nearest Piccadilly line tube station to where I live. So that was kind of interesting. Thankfully, I had a couple of podcasts I hadn't listened to, so I just listened to those on the way back. One thing, though, we got about 3 stops in, and then we had to change, which was really annoying, because you know, it had been completely empty. The train had been completely empty at Heathrow, but by the time there was a couple of steps down, you know, we had to get on the train that already had people from the next train that from Heathrow that already had people on it. And trying to get trying to get a seat, I was lucky. So I just kind of put my earbuds in and just zoned out on a podcast for a while until I got to Arnos Grove, and then got on a bus and got home. So yeah, I was very, very tired when I got home, and thankfully my mother had done some supper for me, which was good, because I was really hungry too, because the last thing I had was a sandwich in Helsinki, because we didn't get anything on the plane. Well, business class did. But yeah, it wasn't too bad actually. So yeah, I would definitely go back again, because there's things I didn't see this time that I'll probably see next time, like other parts of the city, because I mainly stayed around the old town. I didn't really go into like Talinn, the modern Talinn, and I'd like to see Ullumista as well, which is the big lake, and yeah, and the botanical gardens as well. So that's something I have to plan for next year. Also, I had really good weather over there. I wasn't expecting it to be so really pleasant, because I'd asked my friend before I went there what kind of weather are we going to get. Oh, it's probably going to be about 13 degrees. So yeah, I packed a couple of jumpers as well. But the whole weekend, it rarely ever left 20 degrees. You know, it was 24 when I arrived. So I'm there wearing 3 layers of clothing and absolutely boiling alive on the streets of Tallinn. So yeah, I would highly recommend Tallinn for anyone who wants to visit a Baltic country. I think it's on my to-do list to do some other countries around that area as well. I'd like to go to Russia at some point, and Helsinki Finland rather, looks very green and pleasant, and I'd probably go up north and see the Aurora Borealis. So yeah, so that's all kind of planned for the future. My voice is going, so I better stop this video. So Hopefully I'll see you guys in another video. Thank you and good